I'm Steve Croft. Nowhere does this holiday weekend hold more significance than in Philadelphia, the cradle of American democracy. For the past year, the city has been celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Constitution, with civic leaders blushing about the way the institutions of government and the instruments of political power have actually evolved there. According to one bicentennial poll, more than half of its own residents believe Philadelphia to be the most corrupt city in the United States.
All the colors, quick, march!
Philadelphia spent about $20 million last year extolling itself as the birthplace of the Constitution. But for the past 200 years, the city has consistently flunked civics. In the bicentennial year, there were cops on the take, judges for sale, a city councilman in bed with a mob.
In Philadelphia, this is a way of doing business. The fact that that way of doing business is certainly unethical and many times illegal doesn't seem to concern them one bit.
Wayne Davis has some familiarity with corruption here. He runs the Philadelphia office of the FBI.
Corruption by its nature is not committed on the steps of City Hall for all practical purposes. In the city of Philadelphia, it comes close.
And you need look no further than Independence Hall. The city councilman representing this hallowed ground was convicted of extortion for trying to shake down the man in charge of the bicentennial celebration, civic-minded developer Willard Rouse. Rouse had plans to revitalize the stretch of waterfront where William Penn first set foot in Pennsylvania. But that was before he was invited to take a meeting with associates of the councilman and Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo, an alleged mob boss linked to a dozen gangland murders. The meeting began with the words, not uncommon in Philadelphia, "For all I know, you could be wired."
When somebody starts out a conversation with, "For all I know, you could be wired," you know that there's something going on and that this person has some familiarity with what goes on the shady side of the street. So that's how it started, and they asked for $1 million. And
$1 million?
$1 million. A lot of money.
You didn't happen to have it laying around?
It's not in petty cash, no.
What did you consider to be your options, and how long did it take you to make a decision?
3 options. Either you pay, or you say no, or you go to the authorities.
Rouse went to the authorities. And City Councilman Leland Beloff, the man who was supposed to introduce the legislation that Rouse needed for his project, became the 10th major Philadelphia political figure in 11 years to be indicted for crimes in office. Is it a disgrace in Philadelphia to be indicted?
Well, it's not a favorable thing to be indicted anywhere.
But it's not the death knell for a politician here.
Not necessarily.
The local Democratic Party certainly didn't think so. It endorsed Beloff for re-election despite the extortion charges. But then 2 of the party officials making that decision had themselves done time for corruption. And a 3rd had been indicted, but had beaten the rap.
We exalt corruption in this city. Philadelphians have no shame.
Chuck Stone is a Philadelphia historian, college professor, and newspaper columnist.
A congressman, 3 city council members, all serve time in prison, and they come back and are respected. And not only respected, they are exalted. And if the state constitution did not prevent them from serving time because they committed what we call a heinous crime, they would be reelected, and the people would acclaim them as their elected representatives. That is the uniqueness of corruption in Philadelphia.
It was James Madison who argued if angels were to govern men, controls on government would be unnecessary. But not even Madison envisioned the FBI or the hidden cameras and microphones that captured Philadelphia Congressman Ozzie Myers delivering the ultimate quote on Philadelphia politics.
I'm going to tell you something real simple and short. Money talks in this business and bull walks.
It was money talks and bull walks. You know, just something that I had heard many, many years ago, and I found it to be probably the truest statement I ever heard. And, you know, it hasn't changed today. You know, I mean, if I have money, I can do what I want.
Ozzie Myers was a former longshoreman with a 9th grade education representing South Philly when the Justice Department cast a wide net looking for corrupt congressmen in the Abscam cases. More than a third of the catch was from Philadelphia. Myers did 2 years for accepting $50,000 from a phony sheik and now presides behind the bar at the Fireside Tavern.
How do things work down here politically?
Things work down here. You wash my back and I wash yours. It's that simple.
That's business as usual in Philadelphia. That's politics here.
I would think that that's business as usual since Ben Franklin's days.
What are the things that people in South Philly look for in a politician?
They look for someone that will take care of the servicing, the needs of South Philadelphia. We live in one of the oldest urban areas in the country. The streets are in bad shape. The pavements are in bad shape.
Besides getting the potholes fixed and cutting through red tape, what else do they expect?
Can we secure employment for some that need it? We try.
Jobs, so they want help with jobs. What else do they look for in a political figure?
Now, if you have a more direct question that you want to ask me, ask me.
I'm just wondering if honesty comes in here somewhere.
Honesty? I don't think that's necessarily the primary thing that anyone's looking for in the political figures that they vote for.
It begins with the quid pro quo, a favor for your vote. What have you done for me lately? And there's a point at which politics, that quid pro quo, becomes unethical, immoral, illegal, and then criminal. We arrive in Philadelphia at the criminality much faster and in a grander style than other cities.
Director Kaywood, fellow Americans.
When former Chief Justice Warren Burger addressed bicentennial ceremonies last fall, 12 judges were noticeably absent. All 12 were under suspension and 2 were under indictment after the FBI recorded them accepting cash gifts from the Roofers Union, a rough and tumble bunch who need all the help in court they can get. Half the members have criminal records.
When one of my guys ever comes in front of you, I'll just make it known to you. I'll never be there. I won't embarrass you. You'll never hear from me for drugs. You'll never hear from me for any sex crimes.
How did the Roofers Union discover that they were being bugged by the FBI?
The Roofers Union roof leaked. And the way I understand it, they sent somebody up on the roof to check out the leak, and he fell through, and down came all the microphones from the drop ceiling.
Chuck Peruto is a high-powered Philadelphia criminal lawyer who represented one of the indicted judges. He doesn't see anything wrong with taking the money, and he even managed to convince a jury.
Why do you suppose the Roofers Union offered the judges or gave the judges $300 to $500?
For goodwill, for friendliness, to have them look upon them, certainly, as people that should get favored when they come before them.
As a matter of principle, do you find anything wrong with the practice of the judges accepting?
Well, now, wrong is a big word there. Accepting a gift doesn't necessarily mean that that judge wanted that money. I think it more means that they didn't want to alienate people who were leaders of unions.
You're saying it would have been improper for them to turn it down?
No, I don't say it would be improper, but it wouldn't be prudent if they wanted to be elected.
That's poppycock. You know, either you're honest or you're not. If someone offers you money and it's inappropriate, whether they do it innocently or not, it's up to you to say, you know, no.
Ed Dennis was the U.S. attorney in Philadelphia prosecuting the judges. He calls it institutionalized corruption.
And to say that it's unimportant whether or not the judge accepted money under some arrangement that was questionable is a very significant issue. And I don't buy the fact that this is just an innocent occurrence. It isn't. It's a very, it is certainly a very obnoxious practice.
Not with $300 you don't buy a judge. No. You don't buy a street cleaner for $300 a day.
That's right.
The investigations haven't made much of an impact in South Philly, where people expect their friends to do them favors and where friends expect to be rewarded.
If they didn't do anything wrong, what the hell, did they catch them doing anything wrong outside of getting a gift from someone? Is it wrong to take gifts? If it is, tell me.
If somebody comes up and gives somebody a $100 Gucci wallet or something, I mean, ain't nobody going out pricing it. If the guy deserved it, he would get it. It's that simple.
If somebody gave you a $100 Gucci wallet, would you think that they were trying to influence your opinion or vote on something?
You know, the sheiks came to me with bundles. $100 Gucci wallet ain't gonna mean nothing to me, unless it was full up.
Philadelphia voters finally turned Ozzie Myers out of office by a narrow margin, but only after he'd been expelled from Congress.
Mr. Beloff?
Lee Beloff was also defeated, but he served in the city council for months as a convicted felon until the day before he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. In Philadelphia, voters retained all of the suspended judges that were on the ballot last November by nearly 2-to-1 margins. It took the state Supreme Court to finally oust them from the bench.
Now, you can't be servicing these people all these years and then suddenly, when you get in trouble, have them be other than loyal.
So you're saying he may be a crook, but he's our crook?
That's right. That's right. The same as a family member would look upon, hey, he might have done this, but he's my brother, he's my son. They're a family down there. And their man is their champion. If he's done for them, they in turn do for him.
The corruption mars Philadelphia like the crack on the Liberty Bell. It would no doubt sadden the founders, who worried that prosperity would corrupt the young republic. But the corruption wouldn't shock them. Ben Franklin would probably recall his protege, Francis Hopkinson, the signer of the Declaration of Independence, who organized the first parades and fireworks 200 years ago. Philadelphian, who later became the first judge in U.S. history ever impeached for bribery.